Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, MV Pete Coles. Yes, sir. We haven't used that one in a while. We have concluded the NCAA season, folks, and we are in somewhat sunny Westfield, Massachusetts right now. We're having a battle going on between Old Man Winter, who doesn't want to say goodbye up here with the wind howling down the streets, but it's the sunshine and the stuff trying to break out. The shrubberies are trying to break. We were in New York over the weekend and had a good time down there, but some of the foliage is starting to break down there, and it hasn't here, and so it's a little different. It was only a 2-hour ride down, but pretty interesting to see the cherry blossoms in some of the areas that we were had already popped, and so that was interesting. Up here, not yet, but we're hopeful. We're hopeful, Pete. I think we're going to skip spring. It looks like, and we're going to head right into the summer here over the weekend. But that's very, very cool as well too. I'm just dying for some warm weather. I got to get the sun on me, folks. I got to get the sun on me. I do want to say thank you quickly to my old high school, Sacred Heart High School, over the weekend. I was inducted. Thank you. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame with a number of other fine people from Sacred Heart, and it's a really, really good event. They did a fabulous job. Largest crowd we've ever had, and a significant amount of money got raised at the event. I want to thank everybody who supported us in that event, but also I wanted to thank Lily Tucci and Father Robert and Robert Sullivan, really a group of people there that are really working hard to re-engage alumni and bring us back to the school in really, really cool and significant ways, and I'm in 100%. We also have the golf outing coming up, Pete, and we'll be back to defend our title there as well. So, again, thank you, Sacred Heart, for a wonderful evening. My family and I really, really will cherish that for some time. I did, however, whenever I give a talk, somebody gets left out of the talk, and then for some reason that person becomes somewhat famous. So I'm told that it was my sister Tricia originally at my grandmother's wake when I was asked to give the eulogy, and then it became the Barrett family later on at my Uncle Dan's eulogy, and then I blew it. I blew it, Pete, this week. My cousin Danny, one of my closest people to me in the world, I forgot to mention him during my talk. I got up there and I blew it. So I wanted to go back and say how much that young man means to me, the world to us and my family, and I'm just really, really thankful that he could be with us there as well. He's such a huge part of our family, Pete, and I messed up. I turned it over on the goal line. I turned into Pete
It happens. It happens.
It always happens. It always happens. But the people that get left out somehow are the closest to my hearts. I don't know how that works. But let's shoot, Pete. We're going into Pete's Corner, the big start of the show where Pete hits us with 3 questions, and we're rocking and rolling. Let's go, Pete.
All right, first question. Should LeBron James retire at the end of this season?
Yes. I had him 2 years ago. I'm tired of him. I want to give some of these other guys a spotlight.
Okay.
And he's not even spotlight anymore, you know. He's not the great player that he once was. Still a very, very good player, an all-star. And the level that he's been able to maintain, I mean, I got to stand down a little bit. But, yeah, I'm tired of him, to be honest with you. I want to see him go. And I think he's been way too dominating, you know, in terms of franchises and what he's just kind of eclipsed the role of player, and I'm tired of that too. And I think that's part of the path that everybody's going down right now, and I want to see it go the other way. So should he retire? I'm praying for it, Pete. I got a bottle of champagne in the fridge for the day that it happens.
That's outstanding. All right, I had a question about should Chuck GPT replace Chuck in the actual studio crew on the NBA studio team, but I'll save that one for another day. Do you
the
think
answer to that is yes also. Tired of Chuck too.
I think the ads with Chuck GPT are hilarious, and I think it's he can I'll give him credit, he can lampoon himself, but I think that just having that there for an entire show would be freaking hilarious.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay. Do you think the NCAA will make any significant changes to improve the tournament for next year?
No, I don't.
And why?
I think this was designed. I think this is the way they wanted it. And it's no longer give the people what they want. It's we're going to give you what we want and you're going to like it. A little bit of a model shift there, a little bit of a campaign shift there. But no, I don't think they will change it. I think they got exactly what they wanted, Pete. They got 4 number ones in the Final Four. Those are the big breadwinners. Those are the big NIL guys. Those are the guys with the big TV contracts. I think they got exactly what they wanted. And so,
don't you think that the public will eventually rebel, or is it just...
Have they? Or were the numbers good? I heard the numbers were decent and pretty good. And so as long as the numbers stay good on the television, I think everything stays status quo.
Right.
If people do start to walk away from it, I think you will, but I didn't see that this year. I'm not that I'm praying for it, but I'm envisioning it, but it hasn't happened so far. And if the NBA continues to tank like the NBA is continuing to tank, the NCAA becomes that nice safe haven for people to go to, although not as safe as it once was. Still a little bit better than the NBA, most likely, because they're grinding those guys up with an 82-game schedule. It's kind of what we talked about, too. You know, why would you enter into an NBA draft right now, go and get $5 million when you can stay at your college, play 30 games, and get $4 million instead of the 100 games that you're playing in the NBA? Wear your body down. Stay in college as long as you can now. Earn the money. This could be one of the things of the ridiculousness of the NIL. It could be one of those unintended consequences also that happens, Pete, where things start to shift back the other way. Guys start staying around in college longer, albeit they're not at the same college that they started at because everybody's moving here. But you might see them enter into the pros with a little bit more of a maturity, level that I know the NBA is hoping for. It's the reason the NBA implemented one and done. But what I've noticed here also is that a lot of this stuff, they're so moral, the NBA at times. They have Steve Kerr and they've got Popovich popping off, and they have this high morality stance, which I never, ever really got.
I call it holier than thou.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Pete. That's 100% right. And what I'm saying, though, is it only seems to go when they want it to go that way. It's holier than thou for you guys, but not the way we're running our operation. The way they're running their operation is abhorrent according to them. According to their standards, they're abhorrent. I think that's part of the reason people don't like them either. But that's a good one, Pete. Let's get to question 3 and rock it, roll it, and go.
Question number 3 is, how tone deaf are our good friends over at Mega Millions, the lottery? In a terrible economy, they raised their prices. And I'm pretty sure that Powerball probably won't be too far behind.
So let's full disclosure here. Every week we've done 100-something shows. This is 103 maybe. Every week that I come in here, I bring 2 ginger ales and lottery tickets for me and Pete so we can get out of here. All right? That's just simple.
So we can do this show somewhere else on a beach.
We are going to be in Florida doing the show. All right? We're going to buy Rush Limbaugh's old place and run it out of there. And we'll come to you every day maybe because we won't have nothing else to do. But we're going to, every week I come in and I plunk those 2 tickets down for me and Pete and we pray. All right? But we're no longer in the Mega Millions game. We're strictly Powerball right now. $5 per ticket. Mm-hmm. And then they're telling you you've increased your odds. I really don't know what they've increased to, but $5 per ticket. Let's branch out here, though, Pete. Gambling in general. You can walk into just about any establishment now that has alcohol and sit down and play Keno.
Yep.
Okay? Crack. It's crack online.
Yep.
All right? It's an addictive property. Let's not say that it isn't. All right? Now you can go and you can bet in 38 states in the country legally everywhere you went on what cube of sugar a fly might land on.
Yep.
And so now they're working tirelessly, I can tell you this, to keep this under wraps. But they got gambling issues. They got big, big, big problems underneath the covers right now, and all of that energy, all of what you hear out there in the background, if you just slow down for a second and listen, what you hear is that rumbling and the tumbling of trying to cover it up. Because right now, Jontay Porter is the tip of the iceberg. Temple UAB situation, tip of the iceberg. We called it a long time ago. As long as you're going to have prop bets, you're going to have this. But now they're driving all of those poor players out of the Mega Millions business. Where are they going to go? Prop bets on themselves so that it's a better – you want to talk about odds. They've taken the odds completely out of there. Now, they have a case going on around Jontay Porter with the guys that actually were benefiting from him stepping out. So this wasn't just some handoff to my cousin so my cousin can get a $17 parlay and turn it into $46. All right? That's not what this was.
Right.
This was hundreds of thousands of dollars guys were laying on the line, knowing full well that he was going to disappear in that game with 2 minutes gone. This is what you're up against. That's what they're up against. Right now, perhaps they did envision it. They didn't prepare for this. They're not ready for this. It could blow this thing wide open if they knew the extent of what was going on. Mm-hmm. In years past, there have been issues in gambling. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes a player disappears for a while and then comes back, and the league doesn't want to tell you what it's all about. It's gambling. It's a vice. And so we're getting into some strange territory here, Pete, where I would imagine that now that you've given a lot of these young men, 17, 18, 19-year-old men, almost millions of dollars, what's to stop them from trying to turn their money into big money? Just outsource your prop bets. And as long as they keep the action like where it should be, one of the reasons that this jumped is because they got people that watch this stuff. And all of a sudden they see a jump. They see something that's an anomaly. They see something that doesn't fit the norm in the gambling world. All of a sudden, these guys are putting $200K on the fact that Jontay Porter won't make 3 3-pointers.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got more action on that bet than you've ever had in your lifetime.
They don't mind if you nickel and dime them a little bit, but if
that's where the whole game is going to be, is
right?
Going into the nickels and dimes. If they're smart, they'll learn. There used to be a thing in the NCAA when guys were taking the SAT for other people so that they could become eligible. The NCAA put in a rule that if your SAT score spiked by X amount, that automatically triggered an investigation. So you're going to find out exactly that same thing occurring here. But what you're going to do is you're going to see the spike in a SAT score, and they're going to flag it. Same thing here. They're going to see a spike in the amount of money being bet in a certain area, and they're going to flag it. Now, is it illegal? Is it immoral? Where on the line is it? Jontay Porter found out where it was. I can tell you that. He found out real fast. Got a lifetime ban, and I said this all along. He was Lee Majors. He was the fall guy. They just made him the guy because they needed to make a really strong stance on this because it's much worse than they're letting on. Much, much worse than they're letting on in the pro and collegiate level. I'm just going to leave it there, Pete. That's our end of Pete's Corner right there. I'm going to leave it there. But that, if you're a person who worries about anything, worry about that. Because once the game is no longer obviously not level, I don't think it's going to, like you used to see wrestling on the television all the time. Now it's kind of like gone off into cable world and other stuff because people eventually got to the point where they were like, that ain't real. That's not really a fight. They have predicted the outcome way before you go in the ring. Everything's all set up. This is just entertainment. And when people got the hold on that, I think they still like to go to it for the entertainment. But there was a whole lot of Santa Claus believers out there who were like, oh, my God, this isn't real?
Everybody knows it's entertainment now, and they enjoy it more.
And now they know. And so maybe just that clarity is.
Yep.
But if they ever went that way with some of this other stuff and starts getting that label put on them, I think it's much more dangerous because their whole spirit was built on, especially in college basketball, it was built on amateurism, and it was built on the fact that everybody had a fair chance.
Competition,
level playing field. Everybody had a good shot. You know, I don't know what the people believe anymore. You know, are they just there because they got to kill some time of their day? Are they just there because they love it so much? Are they just there because it's the best thing that might be on at that moment? I don't really know. But I would have thought that there would have been a little more pushback on this than there has been. Maybe that takes time too. Maybe.
Well, but think about this, though. The sports media that's out there promoting all the betting, they can't come out and hammer on something like this because they're getting paid by all the companies that are sponsoring the betting to sponsor their sports shows. ESPN is in deep. So is Fox Sports Net and all the others. They're in so deep with the betting companies that they can't report on this. They just can't.
If I was president for a day, I would make it sure that pharmaceutical companies couldn't advertise on television. They took cigarettes off.
Yep.
They took cigarettes off. I would make it sure they couldn't because their money is influencing everything right now.
Yep.
And it's not just, okay, we're calling balls and strikes here. You're no longer calling balls and strikes. You're buying the strikes. You're buying the balls. And you're delivering them anytime you want.
Yep.
You've got a stash of them. It's not a straight playing field anymore. And I think people, are reacting to that a little bit, especially in the NBA. And so how long did it take for the NBA to get where the NBA is right now? Years. It took years. So is college basketball on that same incline? You and I certainly think it is. It's leaning. And then what you would say if you were an astute observer of things that have gone on in the past, now try and extrapolate that out to the future, you'd say that it's coming, that the decline is coming. Don't know where it's going to land, don't know how significant the landslide's going to be, but you and I have been right on this show about a lot. We've been right about a lot. And I think it's coming.
Coach, it's coming.
How long will it take?
It's coming quick because people's attention span is not as long as it used to be. They're not. The goodwill is more of a question mark nowadays than it was 10 years ago.
You also
They're not going to put up with it.
I don't think they will either. But you also have to when you look at this whole thing, when you look at this thing underneath the covers, all right, every single airport has some of these channels on every single day. Every bar that you walk into, all 5 televisions in the bar generally have ESPN on, especially if it's a sports bar. So you got all of this built in watching. But who's really watching? There's nobody in the bar. They count that television as being on, but nobody's actually watching it. People are walking through the airport. They're watching that television. It's on. If they're stuck somewhere, they're probably watching it. They have a layover, there's somebody watching it. But if business is going as usual, you're not stopping to watch that television. It's just on all the time. How much of that is like a buy game for the television people? You know how we talk about buy games with these Division I people? That's buy games for all of these TV people. Those are on all the time. So as long as CNN is on in every single airport across the country, you're never going to really know how bad they are. Same thing with ESPN. Pete, we extended our 30 NBA. Can we grab that? We went all the way through this year, because the end of the regular season is upon us. We have our grand finale. The NBA, Power 30, 1 through 30. We are happy to report that the Washington Wizards did not fall to 30th.
How does that happen?
Pete, they fought. They were warriors. They fought. And all the way to the end of the year, desperately climbing up the mountain of getting out of DFL land. God bless. God bless. Oklahoma City Thunder, Pete. 68-14, the absolute number 1 in the whole thing. And the way things are tilted right now, though, watch out. This playoff thing could be up and down. You could get some turbulence in this playoff thing because there's a lot of good teams out there, that in the right moment can get going. If anybody watched the game the other night, you watched Dallas Mavericks, who basically by all intent and purposes were dead on their backs after the trade of Luka, couldn't get it together. Guys are hurt. Kyrie's been out. Anthony Davis has been out. Well, Anthony Davis was back last night, and he was back with a vengeance. And Dallas right now, if you look at them, they locked out Luka. What happened when they lost Luka on the downside? A lot of points, a lot of assists, a lot of rebounds, a whole lot of stuff going on. What's the good side of losing Luka? You got everybody in a defensive stance right now. Their whole team, I watched them play the other night, they're out there playing defense. That team could be a real problem for some people if they get crept up on. You got to keep an eye on them. All right, but let's go. Cleveland Cavaliers, number 2. Again, I think the Celtics are going to be the number 1 team in the East, but I think both, and I don't know how you can really say this from where I'm sitting, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks are probably better team than the Cleveland Cavaliers in a playoff series. Wow. I'm just going to throw that out there. Cleveland Cavaliers, though, 64-18. What a job. What a job they've done. Kenny Atkinson, fabulous. Boston Celtics, 61-21. Everybody in the world would love that, unless you looked at Boston's record last year. 61-21, very good record. They've had a bit of a mash unit there. I'm expecting them to reconfigure this thing in the playoffs, and I would say you might see in the zone predict that the Celtics will be Eastern Conference champions. They will emerge. Houston Rockets, 52-30. For them to finish in the 4th spot, Pete, is absolute testament to Ime Udoka, the coach, and the young team that they have. They're mercurial, but they've got some talent.
They steadily moved
get up
and
down.
They steadily moved up the chart this year.
They sure did. And that was a team that we were, considering last year, with the draft picks and all the other stuff going around. They moved. Boy, did they move. I would say, them and the Pistons probably had the greatest level of elevation in our list of 30. No doubt. Yeah. That's a great point, Pete. New York Knicks, 51-31. To finish 3rd in the Eastern Conference, very solid. You got to watch this team. They can get hot. They can go. And if they do get hot, they got some pieces on this team now. Lakers right behind them, 50-32. The Lakers have benefited from that trade also, though. If you're going to go West Coast, you bring in one of the best offensive players in the round. You put him with one of the best players in the game, LeBron James, and it's been working. 50-32. And the Nuggets, we got a logjam right here. 50-32 right behind him. Michael Malone fired with 4 games left in the regular season. Calvin Booth, the general manager, right behind him. Boom, boom. 1-2 punch right before going into the playoffs. Everybody, and I mean everybody, including everybody's grandmother, is shaking their head going, why did they do this? I have no idea. But they did it. We'll see how it works. 50-32 for the Pacers. Another good year for Coach Carlisle. He's a survivor. Los Angeles Clippers, 50-32. There's a logjam of teams right there. Interesting that the Lakers and the Clippers wound up with the identical record. LA battle was a tie. Minnesota Timberwolves, 49-33. Another team, like Pete alluded to, they're elevating. And they're playing good basketball right now. If they get hooked up with the wrong team, that's going to be a nightmare for somebody in the first round of the playoffs. We're going to give you that in a little bit. Golden State Warriors finishing 11th. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry last night, 75 combined points out of 120. Milwaukee Bucks, 48-34. About where they've been all year. They fired Adrian Griffin, brought in Doc Rivers. Didn't make much of a difference. Memphis Grizzlies, 48-34. And they're right now, Zach Edey had a pretty big game last night. I think he's in consideration for Rookie of the Year. We'll talk about that. Detroit Pistons, boy, oh boy, look at those Pistons firing on all Pistons. Last year we had them DFL. And this is organizationally, and I was hammering these guys last year. I mean, we were having a whole segment where we would just have fun with it and hammer them for their ineptitude of 19-game losing streaks and just everything going wrong with this franchise. Boy, they turned it around. And we got to give them credit, to slide into the 14th spot. If they had slid into the playoffs at all, people would have been happy. But man, oh man, did they jump. Orlando Magic, they're looking pretty good. They won their first playoff play-in, and so they're going to survive. Atlanta Hawks got bounced last night in their play-in. We'll talk about that, 46-42. The Sacramento, 40-42. Sacramento Kings, identical record to the Hawks, 40-42. They got pounded last night as well, too. Chicago Bulls, 39-43. Billy Donovan and his group are eliminated from the playoffs. Dallas Mavericks, 39-43. Boy, did they play great last night. They played absolutely great last night. Okay, Miami Heat, another team. I don't know if Spoelstra, just kind of waits in the bushes. Playoffs start, out he comes. Tyler Herro last night, my goodness, he smoked that team. Phoenix Suns, 36-46, and we'll talk about a little bit of some Sun news later on as they've gone ahead and gotten rid of their coach. Portland Trailblazers, about what we expected from them, a little bit of improvement. They're not mired in that bottom 4 or 5 of the NBA that's really, really bad right now, but they got room to grow. They got room to grow for sure. San Antonio Spurs, tough year. Popovich having a stroke, being out most of the year. They had kept Popovich for the purpose of tutoring and mentoring Victor Wembanyama, and then that blew up when Victor Wembanyama went out with a pulmonary embolism, and we're really pulling for the big guy to hopefully get his arms around that, because that's something very, very serious. We hope that he can, maybe medicate that. I don't know how. That's really serious stuff, especially for an athlete that's moving up and down the floor like he does as well. Toronto Raptors in the 24 spot. Brooklyn Nets in the 25 spot. We're starting to slide here, Pete. Starting to slide. But as we get into the 26 spot, there is no underachieving team greater than this Philadelphia 76ers, and I think that goes back a while. They brought in Joel Embiid. They had Paul George brought in. They had Tyrese Maxey looking at a 1-2-3 that turned into a 3-2-1 out the door, Pete. 24-58.
Holy smokes.
Just don't know what's going on in there, but they could use some Philadelphia freedom for sure. All right, it's going to get ugly here. Folks, lock the children in the room. Put them away. Don't let them hear this last segment because it's ugly. All right? It's definitely not PG. New Orleans Pelicans, 21-61. Zion, once in a while. Williamson came in once in a while. Boy, that hurt their team terribly. Charlotte Hornets, 19-63. They never got over roughing that kid up in the tunnel at Christmas when they were labeled the Humbug Hornets. 19-63.
I knew it was coming.
And you deserved it. Washington Wizards, 18-64. More draft picks coming. And there they are, Pete. DFL. Utah Jazz. Ain't nothing jazzy about that, folks. Ain't nothing jazzy about that. All right, we're going to stay in the NBA with you right now, and then we're going to slip into our NCAA Final Grand Finale Super 25 for the entire year. Now that it's all wrapped up, now that we've crowned a champion, we've had a Final Four, and we're going to tell you that we looked at the whole spectrum of things. St. John's got bounced out by Arkansas. That didn't hurt us that much when you're looking at the whole spectrum of the year. And anybody who's following this Portal Party Pirate survey, oh my God, St. John's is reloading, folks. Reloading. They'll be top 5 for sure. All of those guys out there drinking that Vita water, baby, because it's going good for them out there with that union of Mr. Patino and Mr. Rappel. Got unlimited amount of money. They're just out there buying people. Even in the NBA, you can't do this. Even in the NBA, you can't do this. All right. The Suns fired Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer was the coach of the Bucks. They fired him. Goes over to the Suns. They fired him. And they had the largest payroll in league history this year, the Suns, and did not make the playoffs. Wow. Bradley Beal, Booker, Durant, big payroll. No playoffs. Fire the coach. All right.
No playoffs, no bueno.
No bueno, baby. They lost 8 straight games, all by double digits in a row. Probably had them, that probably did the coach. But here's where I might not have fired him, Pete. And I'm going to send a note off to my people in Phoenix who seem to be a bunch of people running that front office. They got some rabid dogs up there, man. They fired 3 coaches in 3 years. They got more money on the street than anybody in the NBA right now. Okay, what I mean by money on the street is they're going to have to sign a new coach. Average right now is $8 to $10 million for a new coach in the NBA. Wow. They're on the hook for this guy, for Budenholzer, for $40 million. 4 years at $10 million a year. They signed him for $50 million just this year. Now, here's why I might not have done it, especially after 1 year. If we're all going to struggle, we're all going to suffer, we'll make that guy struggle and suffer with you too. Don't cut him loose and give him $40 million to head off to Maui. That'd be my managerial spot. But they were 26-15 when they had Booker, Beal, and Durant in 23 and 24. But when they had them this year, Pete, the numbers went down to 19 and 18. And they were only there for 37 of 82 games total. No bueno. Durant, they were 33 and 29 when he was around. No Durant, 3 and 17. He's valuable. Okay, do not cry for Budenholzer. Do not weep for Budenholzer. 40 million reasons not to cry. They've had 3 coaches in 3 years. Here's a Michael Jordan note for you as we enter into the playoffs. He led every single playoff series that he ever played in, except for one. 36 out of 37 playoffs, he was the leading scorer in that series.
Wow.
Except for one, and that was in his rookie season. Guy was incredible, man. Guy was absolutely incredible. All right.
It's called work ethic, get it?
Yeah, no doubt. But I got to be honest with you. Just when you thought the NBA could not get it, maybe even like further, like you're digging a hole, the first thing to do is to stop digging. Okay, they keep digging. Part of the problem that we were having figuring out the playoff scenario is they decided, they decided for some crazy reason to stick with the flawed playoff system they implemented the year before. All right, let me lay it out for you. They go through 6 teams, and those 6 teams give a bye on either side, East and West, into the next round of the playoffs. They started this play-in, play-off, play-out, because some people get eliminated, some people go. Now, I've never, ever seen this in my life where you have 4 teams, and you play the 2 best teams against each other, and you put the 2 worst teams against each other. I have never, ever in my entire basketball life have I seen that. In that scenario, everywhere in the world, whether it's 1 through 4 or 1 through 4, anytime you go 1 through 4, you got 4 teams, it's 1 plays 4 and 2 plays 3. Not if you're the NBA, because they've got this really, really cute formula that they thought up in the boardroom, okay? And the boardroom for the NBA is spelled B-O-R-E-D, folks, because everybody else gets bored. But this is what they come up with, all right? Those 2 teams play. Whoever loses, boom, you got to go down and play the winner of the lower teams. So you got 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7 plays 8, 9 plays 10. The winner of both of those games get into the playoffs. 1 more of those teams from either side is going to get in as they go into the losers bracket. So Atlanta loses the other night, although because they were a 6, a 7, and an 8 game, they get to keep playing 1 more game against the loser of the 9-10 game. Everybody still with me, or are you asleep? I'm assuming I've lost the entire world by now. But that's where it is, okay? Magic, 120 over the Hawks, 95. A beatdown, an absolute beatdown, so bad that they had Trae Young ejected from the game. Warriors and Grizzlies, 121, 116 The NBA comes out now and admits that the refs blew 4 calls at the end of that game. Now, a little bit of a pause here. We got to stop calling them mistakes when they all go one way. That defies the laws of probability. Flip a coin. It ain't coming out that way every time. But in NBA land, it does. It lands on heads every single time. That's not a mistake.
Oh, boy.
Edey, 14 points, 17 rebounds. We told you here, Zach Edey should have been the number 1 last year. And boy, were we right. I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year. Tyler Herro from the Heat. Miami versus Chicago. In Chicago, 109-90. The Heat came out and absolutely scorched them. Herro, 38 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 13 of 19 from the floor, 3 of 7 from three-point range. Mavericks, 120. The Kings, 106. Anthony Davis back and back with a vengeance. Klay Thompson, we were calling him Clay Pigeon for a while because he just wasn't hitting those shots. 8 out of 11 and 5 of 7 from three-point range. Unbelievable. Okay, that leads us to this. Hang on. We're still not able to give you the full scenario because they're going to play. Those teams that lost, that had the higher seed, are going to play the winner of the lower seed. It's crazy. I get it. But by the end of this week, we'll have the playoffs set. The Cavaliers are in the 1 spot in the East. Now, this is why I don't like it. If I'm a coach, I'm sitting there, and I'm the number 1 seed overall. I got to know who I'm playing. I got to know who the next opponent is so I can start to prepare. At the same time, the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, and the Orlando Magic or the Indiana Pacers, whoever's in that, at the same time they get their matchup. So my assistant coaches, my coaches everywhere can start digging into the film, going over what plays they ran against us that hurt us, going over what plays we ran against them that hurt them, all of it, going through the whole thing. Right now, today, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the OKC Thunder don't know who they're playing. That's why I don't like it. Now, I get you don't want to go into this full thing of having the play-in become a playoff, which used to happen, multiple game series. It lasted too long. You got your teams that got the byes waiting way, way too long then. I get it. But there's a better way to do this. There's absolutely a better way to do this. All right. So the Cavaliers are waiting. We'll wait with them. Okay? It's going to be the Hawks or the Heat, but they're waiting. They're doing double time because now you got to prepare for both of them. Up until this day, half their staff has been covering one of those teams. The other half of their staff most likely been covering the others. This is a good series, I think, kind of on a low level. The Pacers against the Bucks. Pacers are favored here, but I think the Bucks could give them trouble. I don't know how they match up with Antetokounmpo. But again, Halliburton and some of the guys that have been playing really, really high level for Indiana just recently, that's going to be a good matchup, I think. And I think you could see some situations there where they've had a bunch of coaches that get fired this week. Maybe some of the playoff stuff. Teams that get bounced out in that first round that might not have supposed to get bounced out, they might have some issues with their head coach as well. Knicks and the Pistons. Pistons make the playoffs. That's a tough matchup for the Pistons. It's also a tough matchup for the Knicks. Pistons are physical. They got where they got by playing harder, by playing more physical. And that's exactly kind of a thing that the Knicks, I don't know how that's going to work with them. We'll see. I think that's a really good matchup for the NBA. Celtics and Magic. The Celtics didn't catch themselves any favors here. For being the number 2 team in the East and getting wound up with the Magic. I think the Magic are pretty good. I think that's a problematic matchup for the Celtics as well. We'll see. We'll see. Out west, you got the Thunder waiting, still waiting, and they'll see who they play. Again, it's going to be the Mavericks or the Grizzlies. We'll see. Nuggets and Clippers. Wow, that could be a really good series. The Joker against Harden and his team, been pushing all year. Denver, without their coach, without their general manager, running into a playoff shot. They got the Adelman young man who's now coaching the team. Can he get him turned around in this series and maybe get himself a contract? That's what we're looking at. Those are the baselines we're watching in that series. Kind of favor the Nuggets right there, but I don't know. This is a good series, folks. You got LeBron and Luka up against Anthony Edwards. The Lakers are going up against the Timberwolves. Great series. I'll tell you right now, Lakers, they don't have anybody to cover Anthony Edwards. He's going to be having some 40-point games in that series. I'm telling you right now, and he might wreck them. He might wreck them because if you don't stop him, he will go for 40 or 50 on you, and the rest of the team will play well as a result of that. Warriors and the Rockets in the last scenario here, this is a really difficult matchup for the Warriors. I know they have Steph Curry playing great basketball right now, and they run some really good plays. You know, their sets are good. I just don't really care for Steve Kerr that much, to be honest with you. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Friday, the 18th, you got the Heat versus the Hawks. That's tomorrow. And you got the Mavericks versus the Grizzlies. That will settle that business, and the winners of those games will move into the aforementioned number 8 spot, then play the number 1s, both the Cavaliers and the Thunder. Out right now, the Bulls and the Kings. Sayonara. Get ready for the draft. The Magic and the Warriors are out of the playoff scenario. Okay, here's what I wanted to talk about. Steve Kerr, I think he's a bit of a phony, honestly. All right, and I'm going to tell you why I think that, Pete. All right, because earlier in the year, they've had 3 Mikes fired this year. Mike, boom. There's been 4 coaches total fired this year. The first one was Mike Brown for the Sacramento Kings. Okay? I don't know why they did it. I don't know what the metrics are, what all the internal stuff that goes on in the locker room is. And guess what? Neither does Steve Kerr. But boy, was he fired up when they fired Mike Brown. Steve was fired up. He's on his soapbox. Boy, this is terrible for the league, terrible for everybody. But then when Taylor Jenkins, Mike Malone, and Mike Budenholzer got fired, I haven't heard from Steve Kerr. He's been very silent. Crickets. Makes me wonder. I'm still hot about what he did to Tatum. I don't like that. There was no reason for that. But you did it anyway. And that made you a little smaller than you were in my mind already. I don't know if that was possible. But you shrinking, bro. You shrinking. Okay, Pete. Let's roll to the Super 25 grand finale. We've got the NCAA locked in here. You got all these people putting out next year's Final Four, all of this stuff. They got the next year's top 25 already out. They call it the way too early top 25. And I agree, you're way too early because you don't know. You don't know. We're going to talk about some of that portal potty stuff because last week, Pete and I alluded to how the top of the top is gone. You know, the top of the top is gone. All the good players, 70% of the really good players that everybody wanted, the heavy bag guys, you know, those guys that are going out with 2 heavy bags, those guys are gone. But everybody else is left. Everybody else is still sitting there going, what about me? How about a bag for me? Pete's got it up on the board already. How do you not claim the Florida Gators? You can't. Champs, number 1. They got guys on their staff getting jobs all over the place. Guys getting Campbell job, Columbia job. That's what happens when you win. Everybody wants to know what you're doing, and they want to try and replicate it in their own program. Florida, 36-4. Todd Golden weathered some storms this year, too. Also took it through the toughest SEC and emerged as a national champion. In the zone, called that one for you folks. So just stay tight with us. We'll get you over the top. Houston, 35-5. We got them there. Great year for Coach Sampson. Everybody has them picked number 1 for next year. And I don't see it. But I will talk about that in another 2 months when we see all this settle down and see what they did in the portal. But right now, they're losing a ton of talent off of this team that's graduating, going pro, going different places. And those are some really, really key players that they had on this team. So my hat's off to Coach Sampson. He does a great job. But you're in the plate tectonics right now. And plate tectonics go one over the top and one goes under the bottom. So there's always that realm of every single year of having to reload. You can get loaded under the bottom there. Duke 35-4. I gave it to them over Auburn because they beat Auburn during the year in a head-to-head. Both had great years. Both fantastic programs, well coached. Duke now going to face the reality that Duke faces all the time. You're going to have to reload your team. You're going to have to keep it. You're going to have to try and keep it. But you're not going to have Con Knuppel. He's gone already, declared for the NBA draft. Pete, you got Cooper Flagg out there, the number one of everybody's number one. Is he going to stay at Duke?
No.
It's possible, because what happens is, this is the little dirty secret I'm going to tell everybody right now. This is what the NCAA didn't want all along. And now you know why they didn't want it all along. You've destroyed amateurism. But as long as the second lane exists, all of these boosters can funnel all of this money. For example, let's say you're getting, while you're at X, let's leave everybody's name out of this just to clean it up. You got X University, and they come in and one of their donors owns an aardvark materials company. They sell aardvark food. Millionaire, billionaire guy's a big, big dollar guy, right? So he comes in. And what you're going to find out here is that while he's at that school X, he's going to get some aardvark money. He's going to get big aardvark money. That's why all of these people that are weeping for the football schools that have to split their $20 million amongst everybody, don't worry about it. They got aardvark money, folks. So when the aardvark money goes out, if you go to the pros, now Caitlin Clark went to the pros, her aardvark money went with her.
Yep.
Because
It was on her.
Gatorade, or whoever wanted to stay with her. But this is what you're going to see come for the NCAA to the NBA. Those products aren't going to stay with those young men. They're going to go to the next young man who shows up at X school. And so Gatorade and all of these people or all of these other corporate entities that might be involved right now are not going to follow these young men, except for a very few of them, to the NBA. Now, Flagg, going to be a hot ticket item, some of these other guys, but you don't see these guys in commercials. What NBA guys do you see in commercials right now?
Very few.
They're all the old guys.
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal's in every single one of them. Barkley's in one. Kevin Hart, the comedian. I mean, where are the NBA guys that are in these? They don't need to be, because they're making $50 million.
Yeah, they're making all the bank right up front.
But the thing is the company didn't really want them, because if they did, they'd stay with them all the way through because they're selling. But only at the time while they were registered at School X were they willing to jump in with them in lane 2 and give them all the money they needed. That's what the NCAA fought forever, because now you just got dudes buying dudes. That's all it is right now. And it's gone way, way off the charts. Rick Pitino's been honest about it. We got this player from Seton Hall because we had more money. They're 30 minutes from each other. They're very similar Catholic schools. They both have high-profile basketball programs that are in the same league. We got more money than them. You see this stuff happen now with coaching positions. We're firing our coach based upon whatever the guy from the aardvark company says. That's the guy who runs the program now, not the college president, not the dean of student affairs, not the athletic director. That's all out the window now. None of that matters. And anybody who's watching some of these coaching maneuvers go on during the NCAA tournament and getting a bad taste in your mouth about that, like I did, Man, can't you guys wait till you're done to go get paid? I mean, think about that. The NBA doesn't even do that. The NBA doesn't take a guy from another team in the middle of the year and put him in. Nobody does that. It's gotten out of control. Gotten out of control. All right. You got some people that are in the draft already. We'll talk about that a little bit, but let's shoot through this. We stopped at Houston, Duke, Auburn. Those were our top four pretty much all year. St. John's had a monster year. Coach Pitino, credit where credit's due. If you want to say they bought it, well, that's the game now.
Yep.
That's the game. So I'm not going to criticize the player. I'm hating the game. But I'm not going to criticize the players in this game because
they're playing in the
quote
rules.
unquote, they don't have control over it.
Yep.
I think if some of them spoke out about it a little bit more fervently, you might. Or some of those guys who jumped the fence, might speak out a little more fervently about it. Okay? They might do that. That might help. But instead they're talking about forming power leagues and all this other stuff. Speak out. Speak your mind. Let people know that you don't think this is the right way to go. I don't see it, but I'll wait. Texas Tech, what a great year. And they have one of their players who's a stud going into the NBA draft, also in the portal. But, man, I don't know what these guys are thinking about because if you stay that team together right now with JT Toppin and all the other talent they have around that team, you got a shot to win the national title. Now, if you want to go to the NBA, I got no issue with that. But putting your name in the portal when you're on one of the best teams in the country, you're getting very handsomely well paid right now. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's just greed. That's greed. You got a great situation, and you have a personal chance to have a great year, to have an unbelievable year next year. Texas Tech could win the whole thing. When was the last time that happened? Michigan State, 30-7, in the is zone. He just does a great job, and I think his portal integrity's been pretty good. Tennessee, 30-8. Rick Barnes, they bounced though. They got bounced, and he gets bounced a lot, man. Iowa State, 25-10. Big numbers there, man. But they really, really took it on the chin in the second half of the year there. Maryland, 27-9. I'm going to give it to you right now. They have 2 first-round draft picks on that team. Julian Reese, late first round, I'm going to throw. And I'm also going to say that Derek Queen's in the top 4 right now. A little bit of information on that to be dispensed also, Pete. They have these things called mock drafts. We do ours. We have drafts where people do the drafting. Right now, the top 12 players on just about everybody's mock draft, they're all NCAA American players. No Europeans. Not in the top 12, not in the top 13.
Interesting.
Very interesting. The tide is high, but we're holding on. Maybe it's going to swing back because what you did was, and I said this on this show before, you turned the game upside down on our kids. You started playing European basketball. Of course that helps them. Of course that favors the players that are in European systems. Now, when our players catch up, though, you're going to see it. Our guys can do anything, man. We got great players in this country. They'll adjust. They'll adapt. We got great coaches in this country. Basketball is a well-revered sport, but it's going on in other places too, folks. They're doing a lot of basketball in Italy, Serbia, Canada. Great basketball traditions up there. Unbelievable. So, but I think the tide is turning, Pete. I do think the tide is turning. Alabama, they're starting to get it now, that they're just going to be like everybody else. I mean, there's teams out there right now reloading with their talent. Michigan, reloading. St. John's, reloading. Some of these teams that have been perennially, easy to reload, not seeing it right now. And Alabama is one of the teams I'm seeing having a little bit of a problem. I don't think it lasts, but they better get going. Clemson, what a year. 27-7. And again, message to athletic directors, to coaches, to aardvark company owners. Sometimes you give a coach a chance, and it really turns out right. Browd Brownell is a significant example of that because they were on his head years ago. He was on the hot seat of the hot seat of the hot seat. He was all over this. You know, they were all over him. And then all of a sudden you wait. And this guy's turned out program after program now that are just unbelievable, taking Clemson to heights that they hadn't been at before. And it was all because they were a little bit patient. And then this time, it's a good story too. When people came a-knocking for Broward Brownell, when other programs said, oh, what a job he's done at Clemson. Instead of being on the hot seat, now he's on the Dudley Do-Right Ice Cube seat. You know, everybody wants him. He's cool as a cucumber. He's sitting there looking at everything and going, I'm going to stay at Clemson. They've done right by me, and I've done right by them. We're going to stay here. And so all the people that came at him, they found out he's pretty loyal. Louisville, what a year. You talk about this is the Detroit Pistons of the NCAA. Dead last last year. Pat Kelsey, he makes caffeine nervous. And let me tell you something, they have reloaded in the portal. I would say right there, if you give me, I'm going to say Michigan, crazy portal numbers. St. John's, crazy portal numbers. Louisville, I'm going to say that's the 1, 2, 3 right now of people that are really getting it done in the portal.
And on top of that, with all the weather issues they had towards the end of their season, with flooding and things like that, they held it together.
No doubt. Wisconsin, 27-10. Gonzaga, 26-9. That's the future, though, I worry about, where Mark Few getting to the point right now, and other Catholic schools that have enjoyed great basketball traditions. Villanova reminds me of one. My alma mater, St. Bonaventure. The Catholic schools are up against it with this stuff right now because a lot of times the Catholic schools, by and large, have kind of vacated the football grounds. Notre Dame, obviously, stays, and they're the powerhouse, but they've kind of vacated the grounds there a little bit. And you see Villanova, Boston College, they have football, but Georgetown doesn't. You know, a lot of the good Catholic schools went to basketball only, and you're seeing that as a result. And Gonzaga, I worry about them because they're out there in the West Coast, but man, these guys are just pummeling these smaller schools with money and budgets that they'll never, ever be able to keep up with. I don't know how it all settles, but I think it's got to settle with some of these schools that are currently under this disadvantage. They're going to have to go to lower levels. They're going to have to drop down to areas of Division I where they can be competitive. Texas A&M and Kentucky, 16-17. Kentucky had a great year with Pope. Pope is dope. They're going to get it done in the portal. They're going to bring in the right guys, and they're going to get it done. Kentucky basketball program is in better hands now than it has been in some time. Texas A&M just lost their coach. Buzz took off. It seems like every once in a while he's like a little bit of a bee. He buzzes on this flower, and then he buzzes right off to another flower. Kevin Willard vacating the Maryland job to go to Villanova. That's some of the plate tectonics we talk about with the carousel when it turns. And then you have Buzz going in to Maryland to take Kevin Willard's place. Pretty good of an upgrade there for Maryland, though. I will give them that. San Diego, UC San Diego, 30-5, amazing year for them. New Mexico, Richard Pitino, 27-8. He took off for the Xavier job as a result. BYU, the 20th team in our numbers, 26-10. Watch this team. They're getting the number one player in the country, A.J. DeBonsa. They're also working the portal like crazy. I don't know where they got their money from, but they're throwing that Mormon Tabernacle Choir collection plate around out in Utah, and they're getting it done. Watch that BYU team. St. Mary's, another one of those schools I talked about, aforementioned, small Catholic school, Moraga, California. Gorgeous, beautiful place. But how are you going to keep up with 4 or 5 million NIL every year? How are you going to make that number every single year? Mm-hmm. Michigan, 27-10. I might have given Michigan a little bit of a shot in the chin here, maybe a little higher. But, 27-10. They did a great job, won the Big Ten, and I think they're going to be a top 10 team for sure next year. They got to replace Wolf and Golden. That's going to be hard, but they're already in the mix of doing it right now. Oregon, Dana Altman, he's one of my favorite coaches. He's been around. He knows the game, and this guy can flat out coach. The Huskies, 24-11. What a great close to the season for them. It puts them on a high note for next year. I think Danny Hurley's done a great job with this program. You have to look at everything in the totality. You have to take it all into consideration. 2 out of the last 3 national championships. Came into this year and gave Florida all they could handle in that game, and Florida now is the national championship. Much to be proud on that UConn program. And Coach Hurley, from me to you, coach to coach, I hope you have some time in the offseason to reflect on just what an amazing job you've done. Just what a great, great job you've done in that UConn program.
Hey, Florida proved out to be the man, you got to beat the man.
No doubt. No doubt. And that was a great game. Might have been one of my favorite games of the whole tournament.
Yeah.
I got Mississippi in there at 24-12. Here's some teams that didn't make it, Pete. Kansas, 21-13. Now, I'm sure some people got them in their AP top 25. Get them out of here, 21-13. They bought half of those games. Purdue, 24-12. See ya. Maybe I got a little bit too testy with Illinois there. I don't know. We'll see. All right, Pete, let's throw up that portal, potty, pirate, plundering graphic that we have. A lot of plundering going on right now, and I call it plundering. That's exactly what it is. Big is eating little. People who go and they recruit these players do a great job. There's no more great assistant coaches out there. There's no more great assistant coaches out there because everybody's just buying people. How can you prove your worth when you're just purchasing it? It's like, I guess you could go in and say, wow, like I guess when my wife goes into the mall with my sister, and they come out and they go, oh, look, what a deal I got. Maybe there's some of that, oh, we got a great deal. I don't know, man. I really don't know. D1 transfers total right now. And this closes on the 24th. And you know what, Pete? It closes on the 24th up until somebody says it don't close on the 24th anymore.
Make it rain, baby. That's
where the NCAA is at, though. And I heard a rumor that the NCAA may get kicked out of the room when it comes to the pro organizations they have there. College football, college basketball, make no mistake about it, you're a pro organization right now, and the NCAA doesn't have the wherewithal, or the NCAA doesn't even have the mission statement to stay with that right now.
Yep.
The NCAA should be in favor of moving them out because they've become something that is antithetical to the NCAA. Got 2,050 people in the portal right now. Here's the news, though, Pete. 393 are committed. See, last week we talked about the top.
How many people have the Do Not Disturb sign up?
Oh, they're taking it off right now. Anybody who had it on is taking it off right now. They're trying to get that room. They're calling maid service right now, and they're trying to get that room cleaned. You got 1,657 dudes on the street. 393 have signed. So this is just the bigs taking whatever they want, and all of these other guys with hopes, dreams, and aspirations, they're on the street. Committed, 19%. Uncommitted, 81%. The portal closes April 22nd. As I said, until somebody says it doesn't. Until somebody says, you're violating my rights. Then they will go and they will say, you know what, they're right. We are violating their rights. But we violated your rights to try and hold on to the sanctity of this thing that we do. That's why your rights were violated. Just FYI. Indiana University, Bobby Knight, the great tradition, the great red sweater, the program. They have nobody. And I mean nobody in their program right now. 4 guys, 5 guys hit the portal. 4 guys graduated. New coach comes in. Holy smokes. Nobody. Pete, Trayson Eaglestaff of North Dakota. Apparently this kid can play. Put up 50, put up 40 during the year. So much so that he got himself an NIL deal at South Carolina. And we're going to close with a little bit of Trayson Eaglestaff. Salute out to our friend, Mr. Eaglestaff, leaving North Dakota. Everybody should applaud that. He just dropped 65 degrees into Columbia, South Carolina. Everybody should be excited about that for the young man. But Pete, in this very year, Mr. Eaglestaff has decommitted now from South Carolina.
What?
And he has reopened his recruiting. I was in, but now I'm out. I got a couple of dates for you. We're going to close with them. April 26th, early entry deadline. Until what, Pete?
Somebody sues.
Somebody says there's no entry deadline anymore. Early the 26th. But this is what I'm talking about, where the NBA has stuff in here that they would supposedly be antithetical and opposed to, but they're not, because it favors the NBA. All the mistakes going the other way ain't mistakes, folks. 9 through 11th of May, G League Combine. Anybody having trouble sleeping? Tune in. May 11th through 18th, this will be a good one, NBA Draft Combine. I believe it's in Vegas, May 11th through 18th. That'll be fun. We'll keep you posted on that as well. May 12th, NBA Draft Lottery until somebody sues, and then they have no more NBA Draft Lottery. You can just do whatever you want. June 15th is the NBA Early Withdrawal Deadline until somebody says we shouldn't have that anymore. Draft round 1 is June 25th. Draft round 2 is June 26th. Mock draft notes, as we said, our top 12 are all NCAA players. We're excited about that. I don't think they got it right again, no, Pete. We gave you Zach Edey as the number 1 in the zone, and Zach Edey should be Rookie of the Year this year. It's going to be tight, and he may not be, but he's up there. And when we tell you he's number 1, go. We're going to give you our mock draft, and you NBA general managers better tune in because you're throwing your money in the toilet. See you next week, folks. We're in the zone.